Hi everyone, NZ Tech Freak here again for Android NZ, and what we've got for you today is an exclusive first look at this, the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 Smart Dock. And before we get underway and show you some of what this can do, why don't we start with a brief hardware tour. If we open up the lid at the front here, you can see the USB port connection, and that moves. As you can see there, got a bit of movement in that, and also the backboard that the phone rests against has movement, so that's how this is able to accommodate a Note 2 either with or without a case. So very well thought out design there from Samsung. If we move along and look at some of the other ports it's got, we can see a speaker port, the charging input, a full-sized HDMI port, and on the right hand side of the device, two full-size USB ports, and a third one on the left hand side of the device. So the Smart Dock very flush with connection ports, and well thought out little piece of kit from Samsung, and it's fairly expensive, so I guess we'll move on and show you what it can do so you can decide if it's worth the money. So what you can see here is the Smart Dock with a Galaxy Note 2 sitting in it already, obviously, and it's already been connected. And first thing you'll notice is the docking home screen displayed on the television. And connected to the dock on the left hand side there, we've got a wireless USB keyboard and mouse, so there's a little wireless dongle plugged in there. And on the left hand side we've got this device, which is of course my powered USB hub, and connected to that we've got three different drives: a 32 gig pen drive, a 250 gig portable drive, both of those formatted to FAT32, and finally a 1.5 terabyte drive which is formatted to NTFS, which of course doesn't actually run on stock firmware ordinarily for the Note 2. And what I'm holding up there, of course, is a PS3 controller, which we've got occupying the third and final USB port on the dock itself. Naturally, with the hub we've increased it actually to 6 ports in total, so pretty cool stuff. And if we move on now from here and hit the back key on the keyboard, you'll see the Page Buddy screen for when you're docked, and it's got some pretty cool stuff. First of all, a little dynamic thing here linked to your calendar showing you how many events you have for the day, and down at the bottom the docking icons. And the cool thing about these actually is that they're not set to any particular apps by default, but it actually chooses the ones that you use most often when you're docked. If we pull down the shade here, we'll just drop the brightness on the Note because we're just wasting battery by having that cranked up, and just go down to a little notification here that says rotate. Now this is an app called Ultimate Rotation Control, and that's available from the Play Store, and that will let us force the Note into landscape orientation, so it'll occupy the whole of the HDTV screen. Now that's one of the weaknesses of the dock here actually, is that it won't do that by default, and you get your kind of letterboxed portrait view, which is fairly unsuitable. If we move right on now, just going to show you playing back some video from one of the connected drives, in this case the 250 gig portable drive. Naturally, of course, the main application for this is going to be watching high definition content on your HDTV from the phone, so we'll just show you that here with Big Buck Bunny, which is of course 1080p. Now, one thing I wanted to highlight here for root users who are considering getting the Smart Dock is an app called Paragon NTFS and HFS Plus, which is available from the Play Store. It has a free license that lasts a week, and then you have to pay for it. Otherwise, there are a few other free options that claim to do a similar thing. And the cool thing about this is, for those of you who have large portable drives that are most likely NTFS formatted by default, you'll be able to use those with the Galaxy Note via the setup with an app like Paragon. As I said, it does require root, but if you can cross that hurdle, then it works very well. And so I'm just navigating within the 1.5 terabyte drive here and picking one of the video files from there just to show you that that's working perfectly well. And you see Dice Bay able to play that. Just wanted to demonstrate here just some of the things that you can do when you're able to mirror the full display of the phone rather than just media content to an external display like an HD TV here. And that's just things like browsing work really well, and given that the Note has a 720p screen that's been mirrored, it's really quite a good experience, especially when you're navigating with a USB wireless keyboard and mouse. Similar to what I've shown with a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse via MHL in some of my other videos. So as you can see here, working really well, and the fact that the keyboard hotkeys work is great. A real assistance here, and other things too, like multi-touch gestures on the touchpad will actually work and allow you to scroll up and down pages, which is really nice. And just moving on from there, naturally, it's all well and good to browse in your mobile browser on your HDTV, but sometimes you want to do a bit more than that, maybe browse in a desktop browser or do something kind of productivity related, which is still difficult to do on a smartphone despite the presence of apps like QuickOffice that'll let you edit and view Word and PowerPoint documents and so forth. And so what I'm showing here is an RDP app called Splashtop that's available in the Play Store, of course. And what you're looking at here is my desktop, and the desktop has been mirrored to my Galaxy Note 2 and controlled from there, and that in turn has been mirrored to the HD TV via the Smart Dock. So it sounds like a fairly convoluted setup, but actually it's not that bad. And as you can see, really quite a desktop-like experience when you've got a keyboard and mouse to work with as well, particularly when that keyboard and mouse has Windows-specific hotkeys like the one that I'm using here. And Splashtop, one of the notable things about Splashtop is that it's able to accept external inputs, where a lot of other RDP apps fall down unless you've got a Windows Professional build on the host desktop or laptop PC. And what I'm showing in the background here is just a YouTube video running, and ordinarily this works with sound via Splashtop, another sort of feather in Splashtop's cap. But as you can see here, I'm having some issues because I haven't actually turned on the USB sound card that's connected to my computer, so there's not going to be any sound here, but ordinarily that works, and it works well. And on a good connection you can even stream games and play games with a setup like this, which of course with a controller is going to be really quite a workable setup. So that's all I wanted to show you there. Finally, the last thing I wanted to show here was just, of course, some emulator gaming. So this is FPSC from the Play Store running Tekken 3, and of course I'm going to be controlling that with a PS3 controller, which is connected via a wired connection to the Smart Dock. So I'm going to run with this and then show you some Nintendo 64 gaming as well.
Round one, fight. Flippy, watch out! Don't be on your tail.
Whoa! Help me! Thanks, Fox. I thought they hadn't.
We're entering Corneria City now. This is horrible.
I just wanted to close now with some thoughts about the Smart Dock, having used it for a couple of days. And I think the first big question is really, is the Smart Dock worth the fairly steep initial asking price of $100? And really you can only answer that with a few other questions. And I think the first and most important one is, what's the longevity of this device going to be? Is Samsung going to use this as a standard sort of docking accessory for later handsets or not? I think if the answer is yes, and you could reasonably expect to use this with future Samsung handsets for, say, the next several years, then of course it becomes a fairly good value proposition to purchase it. If the answer is no, then of course it's much worse value for money if it's specifically for the Note 2. But I guess people who are really desperate for this functionality, or who are, say, locked into a 2-year contract and know they're going to be using the Note 2 for some time, may still find it worth their while to grab the dock. In terms of what Samsung's done well with the dock, I really like the sort of hardware design and the thought that's been put into that. It's got an articulating dock connection so that it can accept a Galaxy Note 2 to be docked, whether it's got a case on or not. That's really nice. The fact that it's got 3 full-size USB ports is also nice, and as I showed you, you can even expand on those with external USB hubs. So from that point of view, I think things are really quite well done. The disappointments really come on the software front. I guess the most major one being the fact that it defaults to a portrait orientation when you're docked, which means a lot of wasted screen real estate on your external monitor with those really big letterboxes. And while you can fix that with apps from the market and apps from the market that don't require root, you know, it still would have been nice if Samsung had just thought that out a little bit better before releasing the Smart Dock. There's a few other little niggling things as well. One of the other ones being that it doesn't blank the screen when you're docked. It doesn't even blank the screen when you're playing media when it's docked, which some things like the Allshare Cast dongle will do. So as you're docked, if you're doing intensive things like high definition video playback or sort of intensive 3D gaming, the charge on the Note will still trickle down despite the fact that it is charging while it's docked. So little disappointments like that just sort of detract from the polish of the device on the software front. Now, despite those disappointments with some of the software implementation of the Smart Dock, I do have to say that overall I feel very positive about my time with it over the last couple of days, and certainly it's something that I personally would get a lot of use out of. So after I return this one to Samsung, I'll certainly be looking to track one down for myself. You know, your mileage may vary, and that's going to depend largely upon the sort of use case scenarios that you might have for a piece of kit like this. But for those who are interested in the functionality it offered, I think you'll find that it's going to suit you really well. So that was all we had for you today. Just a kind of quick first look at the Galaxy Note 2 Smart Dock from Samsung, which offers simultaneous USB device connections while mirroring the phone's display via HDMI to an external monitor or HD TV. So that's all we had for you today. NZ Tech Freak, once again, over and out for Android NZ.